Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to mismapasion, and based on the background music to this video, which I hope I don't get copyright struck for, the Olympics are upon us, and in this video I thought, why not have a little fun and do a predictions video to get ourselves into the spirit of the occasion. And without any further ado, and without the help of any drone footage, let's take a look at all the 12 teams competing in Paris and predict who will come out on top in the group stages. So we get right into it with Group A. In fourth place, I have one of last year's hosts in New Zealand. The Football Ferns were one of the most entertaining sides to watch at both the World Cup and in qualifying for the Olympics, and they retained practically their whole squad from the former, which I'm sure would not make you wonder why I have them rooted to the bottom of Group A. My first reason is that when looking at their fellow Group A contenders, it is only the Ferns, alongside the current gold medal holders Canada, who failed to make it out of the group stages of the World Cup, which says a lot about the competition that is in this group, thanks to the inclusion of both Colombia and France, who will be looking to build on their World Cup quarterfinal exits. To add to New Zealand's woes, they are under new management with former assistant coach Michael Main taking up the reins in the hot seat in the wake of ex-coach Jitka Klimkova's erroneous exit after a player revolt against her. Main himself has a massive mountain to climb in terms of restoring a positive and cohesive atmosphere amongst these charges, whilst also having to galvanize the team in their uphill battle against some very stiff competition in Group A. But with the reasons I've mentioned above, I see the overall efforts being in vain, as once again New Zealand will finish dead last in their group. In third place, I've put down Colombia, which shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, but in the same breath, I could be undermining them tremendously, of which, if that happens, I will gladly consume a healthy serving of humble pie. Colombia were one of the better sides at last year's World Cup with their rip-roaring and attack-minded style of football, and have been just as good in their Olympic qualifiers, with the usual suspects of Ramirez, Caicedo and company leading the charge for the Powerpuff Girls, who will once again dazzle on the big stage, but this time in Paris. Although they're missing a few key players like Ana Maria Guzman, Angelo Marsiglia's team will look to punch above their weight like they did down under, and depending on the performances of the other teams, I would not put it past them to clinch top spot once again. And if they do indeed finish third, then I think they'll manage to qualify for the knockouts as one of the two best third place teams in the tournament. In second place, which should come as a bit of a surprise to some of you, I have put down current gold medal holders Canada. Now, I don't know what it is about Canada, but despite their stellar reputation in the women's game, they have never really managed to push on to capitalize on their overall potential. Yes, many reasons can be brought forward as to why that is such the case for Canada, like the poor support they have received from their federation, which I've covered in the past, but they always seem to fall short on their promise nevertheless, except of course when it comes to Olympics, since they are the champions of course. A lot of eyes will be on the star-studded Maples team, who will be without legendary forward Christine Sinclair, who retired last year, which really shouldn't be much of an issue considering that Bev Priestman can call on the reliable services of the likes of Eveline Vian and Jordan Haitema to fill in the gap, whilst other mainstays like Chloe Lacasse are available to answer to the call of duty. Given how stacked the team is though, and the lack of overwhelmingly strong competition across the board, I don't think there should be much of an issue for Canada when it comes to the defense of their Olympic crown. And through the rigorous process of elimination, in first place we have France. In the final competition that current boss Hervé Renard will take charge of, I think he will look to bow out of it in style with his fellow countrymen. With a squad that is glittering with world-class talent and the ever so important 12th man on home soil, this is honestly France's tournament to lose. France have arguably one of the top 3 best squads at the Olympics this year, boasting Champions League finalists from Lyon and seasoned veterans who will undoubtedly combine to make their Olympic campaign as successful as possible. And if everything goes their way, there should be no issue with the French going all the way in the tournament and winning it. And in what should come as no surprise to anyone, Group B is bottomed out by Zambia, who honestly are the designated lambs to the slaughter of their group. Despite boasting some stellar talent like Banda and Kundananji, the Copper Queens are unfortunately swimming with sharks in their group, and just like fellow baseman buddies New Zealand, have not had the smoothest preparations behind the scenes, with coach Bruce Mwape
still under investigation for sexual misconduct allegations, which will cast a major shadow on overall proceedings at the tournament since he will be present there. Nevertheless though, I don't expect any surprise come from Zambia, and thus they will finish at the bottom of their group.
In third place, we have Germany, and whilst they may raise a few eyebrows here and there, it should not be a surprise if we're being honest. The worst case scenario for the two-time World Cup winners is that they fight for third with Zambia, but other than that, the entire national team is in an uncomfortable state of transition right now, with things being stunted in terms of growth both on and off the pitch. In the wake of their disappointing World Cup and middling Nations League performances, Germany will be looking to shake off these disappointments plus the theatrics surrounding the departure of former boss Martina Voss-Tecklenburg and try and have a solid Olympic campaign, especially with the Euros on the horizon. Though they possess a strong squad, which is notably missing Lena Oberdorf, who suffered a horrific ACL injury not too long ago, Germany will be fighting from a lower vantage point, and something crazy will need to happen to see them qualify for the knockouts, in my humble opinion. Second place in Group B goes to the United States of America, and honestly, they can be interchanged with the team I've reserved for first place, which you should be able to guess by now. But coming off being inaugural CONCACAF Gold Cup champions and recently enlisting the service of serial winner Emma Hayes, the USA, much like any other year, will be one of the teams to look forward to watching at the Olympics due to so many things working in their favor, from an excellent coaching staff to an embarrassment of talent in the squad. The only thing that's working against the USA, apart from injuries to key players like Katarina Macario and the shock omission of Alex Morgan, is the lack of cohesiveness around the team and Emma Hayes herself. The English native took charge of the team at the start of last month, so there's not been a lot of time given for her tactics to really seep in and be digested by her squad, and as such, there will be some growing pains experienced by the USWN team, but it should not keep them from nevertheless having a decent Olympic campaign. And topping their group just like they did at the recent World Cup they hosted, it is Australia. There really isn't much to say when it comes to justifying why I have the Matildas in first place, because it's staring us right in the face. They have a great squad, which in spite of the absence of the mercurial Sam Kerr, Australia will still be one of the best teams in the tournament, and that's all thanks to just how well-rounded everything is for the Matildas. Their squad is full of some of the best talents in the world, who represent some of the best teams in the world. And this is a team that is practically a copy-paste from the World Cup, which saw them reach the semi-finals. And with the players knowing each other so well, the Aussies are a very well-oiled unit who, under the watchful eye of Tony Gustafsson, should have no issue getting to the top of the pile in their group and having a strong knockouts campaign. Finally, we reach Group C, the all-star group that not only features a former World Cup winner and the current world champions, but also two of the best teams in world football. Out of all the groups, this one was the toughest to call down the line, but I ultimately think that my picks are quite fair in the end. In fourth place, I have Brazil, and given that this may be the swan song of the Seleção legend Marta, yes, it does mean that her international career does end on a sour note. Brazil have always been one of the better teams in the women's game for a while now, and their current squad is full of youth and experience, which could be imperative in bringing some national honors to the football mad nation, which came so painfully close to doing so at the CONCACAF Gold Cup held earlier this year. Despite this though, the Olympics may be too soon of a major tournament to see Brazil do something of significance, which is less of an indictment on the team itself and more so a realistic look at the strong competition that they are facing in this group. I may have put them down as a team that will bow out early, but there is no doubt in my mind that at the very least, Brazil will give it everything that they've got. In third place, and the other recipient of the best third place team, I have put down the Super Eagles of Nigeria. This will be the first time in 16 years that Nigeria will be showing up at the Olympics, and though on paper they are facing some very tough competition, based solely off their performances in the last year, they will fancy their chances and maybe pull a major upset or two on the way to the knockouts. Coach Randy Waldrum will train the majority of his successful squad and with an insanely strong spine consisting of sensational shot stopper Nadozi, defensive general Ucheibe, midfield stalwart Payne, and imperious goalscorer Oshwada, opposition teams should be afraid of the heat that Dark Horses Nigeria will be bringing to Paris. In yet another shock twist that shouldn't really be all that shocking, I have current world champion Spain, who in their own merit should definitely be at number 1 in the group. But football heritage says otherwise. However, when it comes to Spain, there really isn't much to say about this team because they have everything and then some when it comes to medal winning credentials. La Roja are on the prowl for their 3rd consecutive piece of major honors in the wake of their World Cup and Nations League victories, and with the squad featuring 2/3 of the women's Ballon d'Or winners, in addition to the majority of the indomitable Barcelona squad who swept all of their competitions this season, as well as the rest of their World Cup winning team, it is going to be a tall order for anyone to step up to the plate against the Spaniards, and given the current wave they are riding, it is only Spain themselves that are able to stand in their own way of success. Well, that is Spain and the team I have put above them. In first place, I have put none other than Japan, and yes, that means I have touted Japan to beat Spain to first place in this group. First off, this decision is spurred on partially by the aforementioned football heritage because in Spain's World Cup winning campaign last year, they were victorious in all but one match against none other than the Nadeshiko, who served up a colossal 4-0 clobbering to the eventual world champions. Thus, Japan have Spain's number, and whilst the latter will definitely be looking to right those wrongs from last year, the shock exit at the World Cup will prove to be ample motivation to continue to push on and continue to reassert their dominance in world football. The only issues of contention that could hamper Japan's overall hopes of winning Olympic gold is a notable absence of Jun Endo, who ran things in midfield at the last major tournament featuring Japan, but her absence won't do much to derail her country's attempts to go one better than their 2012 silver medal finish. And those are my predictions for the group stages of the Women's Football Olympic Tournament. At the time of this video going out, the tournament will be starting tomorrow, aka the 25th of July, with all the groups taking part in the action, with Canada versus New Zealand and France versus Colombia being the curtain raisers for Group A, Germany versus Australia and Zambia versus the USA forming the first round clashes in Group B, with Group C rounding out the inaugural action with Spain versus Japan going at it once more in what promises to be a barn burner, and Nigeria facing off against Brazil. It'll be an action-packed start to the games for sure, and stay tuned here to mismapasion, where I will be covering all of it in its entirety from beginning to end so that you can keep up with all the action happening at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Thanks as always for watching. If you heard any background noise throughout the entirety of this video, I do apologize. There's a lot of construction and grass being cut at the moment where I live, so that is the reason for it, and I really had to get this video out before the start of the tournament. But if you agree or disagree with my group predictions or have predictions of your own, be sure to share it all down in the comments below, and I will see you all on Friday to review the first round of action in Paris. Goodbye for now.